What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Today is Best Served Podcast 356. Meet the team. Love this series. We're talking today with Camille Shoemaker. This is Tell Your Best Story, episode number 15. Meet the team. I am so lucky to get to interact with all of you so many times, 350 plus. That's just this series. Over 400 times we've been able to communicate, interact, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity. Yet there are so many other people now, believe it or not, that are behind the scenes making this actually work. And I'm excited you've gotten to meet Andrew Parr, business partner, ops, finance crew. You've gotten to meet Sophie Breaker, who's here today behind the scenes, always running the show. Corey, who's always all over making sure that the audio video is on point for what we do. Karen Savory, who's doing design. And we want to keep meeting people. This is all about the human experience of what we do in hospitality. And that means what we do at Best Served as well. So I'm excited to introduce you to Camille. And for the next 4 episodes, you'll be meeting all the editors from the 86 challenge, which we talked about last episode, and met some of the writers. So I'm excited to introduce you to them. All right, that's enough babbling from me. Camille, let's bring Camille in to speak with us now. Camille, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for having me.
Absolute honor. I actually was also on your show. A little plug for your show. Yes. We'll make sure and drop a link. You're doing some IG live stuff, talking about nostalgia. So that was super fun. I want to start off with talking about your personal trajectory. And I think you have a unique kind of perspective in this because you very much came up as that chef, that brewer, that farmer, right? And now we're thinking about writing and thinking about editing and publishing. And so I want to hear a little of the background. So give us, what was the first job? Where'd you start out? When did you catch the hospitality bug?
I mean, I've always been in hospitality. My first job was at Starbucks, and I was there for 4 years. So I think that definitely set the tone.
Your first job you were at for 4 years? That is like some serious commitment to a first job.
I think it was the longest I've ever been at a job. It was my first job. So right. Set the tone. Yeah, so I mean, I've always been in hospitality. I started out at culinary school and went to Johnson & Wales and focused on pastries, and then moved to New York and did my master's out there at NYU in food studies. So focused way more on academia food, so we talked about everything you don't really think about, from culture, politics, history, science, all those elements that go into food that are kind of behind the scenes of restaurants and organizations that people don't really grasp. That's a
Camille,
huge
this is so cool because now I get to know you through this show a little bit more as well. I did not know that you did a master's in food studies at NYU. Yeah. Now it makes a little bit more sense. Now the Nostalgia Project has a little more context, right? You're looking at this almost from a anthropological view, right? You're looking at the context of the human experience from a much wider lens than just the last 10 years of this industry. You're looking at historically and the impact that it's had on individuals, on communities, on culture, on the food system. So that is very fascinating to me. You and I are going to talk more about that. I'm a big history buff as well. I really like to know, kind of, because I'm such a futurist, the only way we can know how to move forward is if we can understand where we come from. So now I need you to teach me a little bit. All right, that's the sidebar. We'll geek out on that a little bit later. So then talk about, more recently for you. Let's get a little bit current, right? You've been in the kitchen, you've been in the brewery, you've been on the farm. You kind of like are taking this 360-degree view. What's that been like for you? What have you learned? Impart a little knowledge on us.
I think just truly seeing all sides of the industry helps to just have kind of that well-rounded view for sure. Just being able to understand all parts of it. And obviously I've mostly been in the kitchen. I was only a farmer for about 2 years, so I can't, fully grasp how hard it is to be a farmer, because obviously I didn't last for very long, because it is really hard.
2 years is a lot longer than any of the rest of us in the kitchen. So the level of respect, I mean, I feel good about having taken 10 hours of farm tours and thinking I know more than most of us who are stuck in the kitchen. So the fact that you actually worked on the farm, respect for sure.
Yeah, it was interesting. So I did one in upstate New York, and then when I moved back to Colorado, I actually worked in a greenhouse in Frisco. So went totally opposite, because the growing season in Frisco is about May to September. So you can't grow much up here. So did that and was kind of in brewing, and then realized I was out of food for a little bit and was still in love with it, and just decided to go back to that. And so I've I've done teaching. I was teaching at CMC for a little bit up here, Colorado Mountain College, teaching recreational. So teaching to mostly people who are in their 50s and 60s how to cook. It was interesting. And then through that, my boss was a private chef and asked me if I'd ever considered it, and I hadn't. And I've been doing that now for 2 years, and that's evolving. And that's kind of developed my interest in writing a cookbook. And
now we get to the writing.
Yeah. And that's kind of the goal. So I got in, to some internships with Amanda Faison, and then got connected with you because you need all this experience writing and a huge social media following to be able to write a cookbook. So
right. Oh,
yeah.
I just love this. And shout out to Amanda Faison,
She's
editor-in-chief at Dining Out Magazine, formerly of 5280 Magazine. Definitely one of the pioneers of the food media in Colorado. And so connected us, as well as Zoe, who we're going to hear from a little bit later on, and who are, integral parts of the team. So excited to kind of hear that. Yeah, you've really seen all the aspects of the industry. And I can tell because you bring a lot of that to the thoughtfulness and the creativity that you have for kind of seeing, reading between the lines a little bit of like where somebody's coming from, because potentially somebody in the industry, you've actually even just dabbled in something that they're working on. So I appreciate that. And also we want to make sure and support. Sophie will drop a link to your private chef business, because cool. If you're up in the mountains, make sure and let Camille feed you. You won't be disappointed for sure. So now we get very current 86 challenge, right? Coming on to help us develop this system of being able to bring people's stories to life who've never written anything, many of them. And so, there's inherent struggles and challenges with that, because they're not professional writers. They don't understand AP style. They don't understand, how to bring their story to life. A lot of times these stories are starting from me seeing somebody's long Facebook post and saying, wait a minute, there's something there. And I have been so unbelievably moved and inspired and devastated by these stories. I know you have, so many of us have. So give us a little insight and just broadly what you kind of see from this challenge. And then I want to talk about some specifics of how we're able to bring these stories to life. But what have you felt? What have you experienced over the last couple of months of the challenge itself?
I think in general, writing is super intimidating. I mean, I've always been intimidated by it because I'm not an amazing writer. And so I think just that, like, that in itself makes it, scary for people who work in the industry, because working in kitchens and stuff like that, you're doing the total opposite. You're on your feet all day. You're working with your hands. You're not really writing it down. If you are, it's technically probably in a journal. It's, and so it's just super intimidating, and you have to be a really good writer to get published anywhere. So I think that's kind of the thought process for everyone, when you don't need to be an amazing writer to share your story. And so I think that's been inspiring, seeing all of that. And even like you said, with the Facebook post we have in Summit County, it's pretty tough right now getting people in the industry. And someone just posted the other day kind of ratting out a restaurant up here that was super unclean. And someone else commented about saying, what, are you just a dishwasher? And they were. And that really stuck with me, because it's just a dishwasher is not a thing. You ask anybody else, would you go and do that job? So I've thought about that and reaching out to that person to hear their story, because their story matters just as much as the person that's serving your food and cooking your food and managing the restaurant. So
Camille, please do that, because I believe that the dishwasher is the most important person in the building. Their work touches every single guest. Nobody else can actually say that. So I think they're instrumental, absolutely. And just a dishwasher, just a cook, all of those tropes that we perpetuate, they're just not true. There's just these false myths that we built up to subjugate others, and sometimes ourselves. We have imposter syndrome. So I appreciate you highlighting that. Writing can definitely be intimidating. I want everybody to know, and we truly believe this, we've talked about this, you're a storyteller. If you touch people's lives through food, you're a storyteller. You've chosen food as the medium for that. every single time you're sitting around swapping stories, talking about this great sushi restaurant that you went to, you're telling a story. And sometimes I think we need these epic novel type stories to be able to be a writer. And we believe that you just need to write 250 words that express who you are, what you're about, what you love, what you hate. Any of those things are important. So I appreciate you highlighting that. Let's talk about some of the specifics. I want to get maybe a little technical for people, right? We're publishing all these articles. There's a whole process of assigning the articles to different editors. We're trying to work through that. We're trying to figure out, like, do we hold them to this really rigid AP style? We said, no, we need to let it be a little more fluid. Sometimes they may not have the perfect composition, yet it's a true expression of how they speak. Quite often you can tell that it's a verbal story that they've tried to kind of put into written form. And working through that, you're editing it, we're getting photos for it, like all of these moving parts. What have you kind of learned through those steps of process of just what it really takes to get somebody's story actually published?
I think just having that organization skill for sure. I think it was same thing, intimidating for me at first, because it's a whole different use of my brain, where I'm usually not sitting down and writing. I'm going all the time. So I think you guys were really amazing because you kept everything super organized. But I think learning that system was great, and just keeping everything intact is important because, you can't always reach out to the person writing it. I don't think I got a response from a couple people, but most people don't have the time to respond, understandably. So I think that organization key, and like you said, understanding that it's not going to be this perfect style, but that's not the goal here. It's, to have their story shared, not to have it in a perfect format. So
and I think in and of that, it still kind of was perfect. Like it was perfectly what it was supposed to be. Like it wasn't to style of professional journalism in some cases. In other cases, it really was. I was very impressed with some of the writers saying, wow, this is legit, journalistic approach that they took here. But it was so perfect. Every day I looked at these stories as we were publishing them. And quite often I was like, oh, is this going to be a really bad story? Is it going to be like clumsy? And I'm just going to like suck it up and say, you know what, rah, we're trying to be here for people. And I didn't really have that experience. So I think that was great. And from the technical aspect, to give people a little bit of a kind of a glimpse, we let the writers know that we will make sure that the composition, that the structure, that the grammar, punctuation, all of those things are properly done. We're not going to mess with your story. We're not going to try and add and understand layers of context stuff. This is your story. And so, the writers, a lot of times people will say, please help me, just like make it sound right. And I think we did a really good job of that. And every story that I read, and I looked at some, I was like, I want to read the raw one and the finished one, just to see that the editors were like staying true to that. And I felt really good about all of what we were able to accomplish, and not having to change people's stories or tell them, hey, we need a rewrite. Like we didn't have to do rewrites on any of these, which was really exciting as well. So I want to take a couple minutes and just like talk to people out there in the industry who have something to say, who've been told they're just a dishwasher, who are that person who's always cracking jokes, always telling stories, always the one who's like bringing life to the restaurant, to the brewery, to the farm. We know those people. And those are who we want to hear from. Again, they kind of struggle with that imposter syndrome. You've kind of been there. You had to like say, I want to write a cookbook. I'm going to push myself to get out of my comfort zone and go and put my stories pen to paper. So, what do you want to say to them that might help inspire them? This is your rah moment. That's my thing. Now it's your turn. How can we get more people in the industry to write stories? What do you think?
I think just, taking away the intimidation factor. Everybody out there wants to hear your story. Don't let people tell you otherwise. If they don't, they're not worth your time. Especially, with the pandemic, we've all gone through so much this year and all have like a deeper story to tell, especially in this industry. And still being in it, or even not being in it, if you left it, that's respectable too. But I think taking away that intimidation factor where we want to hear your story. So if there's people out there that don't, then again, it's not worth your time. So.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Haters are going to hate, like forget them.
Right.
There's hundreds and hundreds of thousands, millions of people in this industry that have your same experience, that are feeling you, that want to hear from you, because they recognize then you're empowering them, giving them permission to also share their story. And so it's not just the anointed few. They get to speak on the behalf of millions of people. And yeah, if people don't like your story, fuck them. Like, we want your story. Like, we are desperately wanting to hear your story. And I'm so grateful that you've been able to be a part of this and helping guide this process and being introduced to so many writers. To totally put you on the spot, any story specifically that you edited that you felt like really spoke to you, that challenged you, that gave you new perspective, that I'm just dragging on time so you can like try and remember an article.
I know.
Anything that really stands out to you?
I forget the name of the author, and I apologize for that, but it was one about leaving the industry. And I think that really stuck with me for sure, through everything this past year, just the courage of someone having that and just saying, you know what, I can't do it anymore. So I think that stuck with me because that takes a lot of bravery, especially if you've been in the industry for so long, to leave it and start over. Like, I can't even imagine. I don't know what I would do. So,
all right, we will track down that article. We'll make sure and link up that article, because there's quite a few of those stories. And I think there's a couple things to that. One is, you hear this a lot, like, it's all I know, it's all I've ever done, because so many of us get into it when we're young, first jobs, right? Nobody becomes an investment banker at 16. A lot of us get into the industry at 16, and so we get kind of sometimes trapped in it a little bit and feel like, I can't do anything else. But you can. And we even say, look, if you need to leave the industry, we can support that as well.
Right.
We hope to be able to bring you back someday and even attract others, because we have a lot of work to do to build workplaces worth working, a new type of industry. But like, you have amazing transferable skills. The abilities that you learn in a restaurant are a snapshot of what it means to be human, what it means to be a part of the American culture, what it means to be a part of capitalism. Right. It's a microcosm of the world at large. And so you have a lot of skills that you may or may not believe that you do. We do believe that you do. Yeah. And I'm excited to continue to get more and more stories out there. So yeah, so grateful for the work that you've done, what I've learned. I'm very excited to also learn a little bit more now that I know that you got the master's from NYU, and can learn a little bit, getting more depth and more context, because we get stuck in this little bubble of you're only good as your next plate up, right? We're stuck in this individual moment, and sometimes we need a little perspective. So I'm excited to have you help bring some more perspective. Camille Shoemaker, everybody, appreciate the work that you've done.
Yeah, thank you. You've been an amazing mentor, and I've learned a lot. So appreciate you.
And the mentor-mentee goes both ways. I'm not your mentor, you're my mentor, and back and forth at any given moment. Now even more so. So thank you so much. We'll let you go. Cheers.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, everybody. That is it for this episode, Best Served Podcast 356. Camille, amazing voice for the industry, has really traveled throughout all of what food, beverage, and hospitality really means, and is bringing that perspective to us. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited for you all to meet the rest of the editor team, and to just get in touch with this 86 challenge, and read these articles, meet these 86ers, because they really are bringing those inspiring, devastating, groundbreaking stories to the forefront, because we asked, because we said, we care about your story. We will pay you $86 for an article of anything you want to talk about. And I think that's a shift in media and storytelling that we need to really, really start to let sink in. It's a big struggle. It's a challenge to get people to believe that their story matters, that we want to hear it. But we're here for it. Appreciate you all. Go write your story. Cheers.